places in the final. From the 10 groups, that's now whittled down. So Ivory Coast, with their great background, strong team, they will be strong favourites to go through. And maybe still that feeling that if ever there is going to be an African team to win a World Cup, it could be them. Although there's also a growing feeling that the golden generation of the Ivory Coast team is certainly aging now. This was discussed quite a lot with Didier Drogba's removal from many of the World Cup qualifiers, that there's a feeling that they've got to find more youth in the team. Can't just rely on Drogba, who is the country's highest ever goal scorer. But this crop really are reaching their 30s now. You look at the likes of Zekora, Y.Touré, he's 30 as well. L.Traoré is over the 30 age. So time isn't on the side of most of these players. For many of them, this will be their last chance of a World Cup. And it is the home side, Tanzania, then, who get us underway. As I said, they were forced to rearrange a little bit at the back. Looks like they will start with a 4-5-1 with Kiemba on his own up front. Kiemba, who scored the goal in the defeat by Morocco. But it's a big ask for this Tanzania side, no question about that. The big money will be backing the Ivory Coast. Tanzania playing from left to right in this first half. Much will depend on the way the midfielders, the attacking midfielders, can get forward. The likes of Ngassa. There's Ulimwengu. How these players can break out of the midfield and press up could be the key to the game, really. This is an early chance though here for Tanzania. It was Touré who got the header out, not properly clear yet. And there's a mess up at the back, and it's a goal in the very first minute. Would you believe it? We've got a major shock. Within the first minute of the game, Tanzania have taken the lead against the Ivory Coast. The ball wasn't clear properly from the corner. It was a great strike by Kiemba. And Tanzania have really upset the odds in the most amazing fashion from the first attack of the game. Brilliant finish by Ulimwengu, the young 20-year-old playing just for his 16th time for his country. You see the long throw came in. The first header was good by Touré, but after that it really was confusion in the box and a terrible mistake, really. It was Y.Touré who missed his kick in the box and clearly onside, and that is a disastrous start for Ivory Coast. And would you believe it, Tanzania go in front in the very first minute. Do we have a shock on our hands today? Well, it's a wonderful start. Ivory Coast stung into action at the other end straight away, and that's not far off either. Gervinho back in the team today. He was suspended for the last match. He's been preferred up front to Aruna Kone, who's on the bench, the Wigan striker. Gervinho didn't really get hold of it as he would have liked, though. Chances at both ends already. What an amazing start we've had to this game. Who would believe that Tanzania would take such an early lead in this qualifier, and maybe that really will give them the impetus to go on. There's Sol Bamba. It was really his mistake more than anything that cost the goal. Just didn't clear his lines at all at the back. And a disastrous start for the Ivory Coast. They need to get their head straight, start playing their game. But certainly, for the good of the game, it's probably the best possible start we could have from a neutral's point of view. Tidy defending there by Kapombe. Well, Kim Paulson on the Tanzania bench must be absolutely delighted with how things have started for his team here. Incredible, just 1 minute gone and the home side are in the lead. Still, it's early days yet, and as any coach would tell you, if you're going to let in a goal, it's best to let in one in the first minute and in the last. It shouldn't ruffle their feathers too much. There's so much class in this Ivory Coast team. But a real explosive start to the match. Now here come Ivory Coast. What can they conjure up from this attack? The Elephants just lost his footing at the wrong time there, Gervinho. Promising start though. The Arsenal man, he hasn't had the greatest of seasons in the league. There are rumours that he will be on his way. You could just see Salomon Kalou there. This is where they will be very dangerous. Gervinho takes a short one. But the Tanzanian backline holding well so far under the early pressure. It's going to be a throw to the host there, much to the annoyance of Kalou. So it was a throw from that man, Nioni, that started the chance for the goal. And it's almost a good through ball there by the Tanzanians. Entertaining start to this game from both sides. There's a clear feeling that they both want to win today, even though, as I said earlier on, there are differing reasons for that. Ivory Coast, well, a defeat here would be a catastrophe, really. Very much against the books. And also, it could let in everybody else and really throw this group wide open. Morocco will be watching this game very closely too. Morocco, who are 2 points behind the Ivory Coast going into this match today, on 8 points. Tanzania in third on 6. And of course, the leaders, the Ivory Coast, 10 points. But with just one game left after this one, could be a nerve-jangling end to the qualifying campaign. Certainly not what Sabri Lamouchi would be wanting. He wanted the most straightforward way through to the final playoffs. He really wanted to see the job done today. There have been problems in the camp though, no question about that. We heard of a training ground altercation, really, I guess you should call it, between young Manchester City player Abdul Razak and Jean-Jacques Grosso, both players who were apparently expelled from the training camp, is what we heard in the press, although the young Manchester City player Razak said that it wasn't true. He was still there, still part of the squad. Certainly no sign of him so far from what we've seen though in the stadium. And there's Arthur Boca, another one in his 30s now, 30 years old, 75th time he's played for his country today. It's an experienced, well-drilled team with an embarrassment of riches, really, for Lamouchi. Sol Bamba really needs to get his head straight after making the mistake early on. And there could be a chance. It's a great tackle, though. But it's been a bright start by Tanzania. You can see Solbamba not happy. It was his missed kick that let in Tanzania for the opening goal. It was a great tackle there though, against the man who scored the goal, Ulimwengu. That time Ivory Coast do deal with the corner kick much better. And a chance possibly for the guests to break away. Nothing doing this time though. A little bit tight in the middle of the park at the moment. Haven't seen much from Y.Touré so far. There's Gervinho switching wings all the time, we've seen in these early stages. It's a good run too. Touré couldn't thread it back in though. It's a nice ball, if we can reach it. Is it going to be a corner? No. Aurier, one of the names not on many people's starting lists this afternoon. He's won the corner for his team now. Kasea, the ever-dependent goalkeeper, playing his 59th cap today for Tanzania. Not a good corner. They got lucky with the clearance though. So there's Die there, Sere Die, trying to feed the ball through, doesn't come out. And a chance for Tanzania on the break again. Can he go all the way? Looking for help in the middle. But it's well cleared to give away a corner. Another good break though. There are very promising signs from this Tanzania side. They're not going to be overawed. You can see what the crowd think of it. They are delighted with the way things have started here. As well they should be. It was a good break. Clearly didn't have the confidence to go on his own. And Sakura it was who cleared his lines. Another chance. They really don't look strong at the back, Ivory Coast today. Rather a waste in the end. Harub, I think it was, who was wayward. It's hard to see whether he was trying to cross it or shoot from there. But we passed the 15-minute mark, and a major shock to most observers really. Tanzania 1, Ivory Coast 0. If you've just joined us, the goal scored in the very first minute by Ulimwengu. It's a good cross in, whipped in there nicely. But Tanzania so far have looked much stronger at the back than Ivory Coast have, no question about that. Kim Poulsen will be absolutely delighted. He said that he really felt that the side were undone by bad refereeing decisions in the defeat by Morocco last week. It did seem to point to the end of the qualifying hopes that the country has, but they bounced back in the most spectacular fashion so far here. There's Seredia. It's a nice ball. Space down here on the left for Kalu. Just kept in. And he's onside. This is a great chance, and it's got to be a goal. We've got an equaliser. Simplest of tap-ins it was in the end. Well, Traoré could hardly miss from there. And Ivory Coast are level. 2 goals in the first 20 minutes. Just broke the offside trap. There were questions asked in the back line. It was a very simple goal in the end. Lovely build-up though. And a finish of consummate ease to level things up. Asina Traoré has equalised for Ivory Coast. We're back to level pegging. Disappointing really for Tanzania, who have been so strong at the back in this early stages. Well, It's been an entertaining start, no question about that. And you could really get the feeling that Ivory Coast were coming back into it. That's neatly done by keeper Kaseya there. They've got their reward. Pegged back the home side, and now is a big question mark over psychology and the mental strength of Tanzania. Had the best possible start, but that will put a dent in their hopes. Thoroughly entertaining match we've got here so far. It's a good ball looking for Gervinho, brilliantly brought down too. Couldn't get past his man though. Interesting to watch how Gervinho is switching from one wing to the other the entire time. It's got to be a push on Seridier. It is indeed. Free kick to Ivory Coast, says the referee, Mr. Sharef. Well, all credit to Tanzania. They haven't let their heads go down. Got plenty of men up for this attack. Here's Kapomba. It's nicely done. Can't really find the final touch. Kiemba it was who found a little bit of space. Now that's a good ball. Just a touch too long, unfortunately. It looked like a really dangerous move there. Bony, who's looked good in this first half. It was his throw that led to the goal, but he has found that kind of space once or twice, and that will be a concern to Lamouchi, the Ivory Coast coach there. And what must be going through the mind of Kim Poulsen, seeing his side take a miraculous early lead to be pegged back. What kind of influence is Y.Touré going to have on this game now? It was very much his work to set up the goal. It's a good run, got it in behind his man. He's got space on this right hand side if he can find a cross. 2 or 3 in the middle to aim for. L.Traoré it was who gave away the corner, I think. Or it could be a throw actually. There once again. It does seem like a possible avenue for creating problems at the back for Ivory Coast. The long throw-ins from Bony. It's gone down there. It's going to be a free kick to Tanzania. And they really must try and work hard to make the most of these dead ball situations, whether it's corners, throw-ins, free kicks. That will be a way. We've seen once or twice confusion at the back for Ivory Coast. They'll be looking to capitalise on that. Barry, the keeper, trying to organise his defence. Dealt with well in the end. It's a very tall side, the Ivory Coast. It is going to be hard to beat them in the air. So it will be as much a case of trying to look for the second balls, where the deflections and the drop downs come in, taking advantage of those, as they did really in the setup for the goal. Just kept in. Another promising move. Nobody's really making a move into the box as yet. 4 players hesitantly standing outside. And they're pushed all the way back in the end. And that is going to be the difficulty really for Tanzania today. To find a way through. Strong back line. So we're just after halfway through the first half now, if you've just joined us. Incredible start to the game. Kiemba opened the scoring for Tanzania, only to be pegged back by Traoré in 13 minutes. Ivory Coast not only the top of the group, but very much seen as the best side Africa has to offer at the moment. Cameroon, another strong African side looking to justify their heavy billing. Everybody wanting to be on that plane to Brazil next year. Brazil themselves are involved in Confederations Cup action this week. He started off the competition on home soil by beating Japan 3-0 last night. But even though they've been pegged back, let's look at Mbana there. There is a feeling that there's enough young talent coming through the ranks in Tanzania to be able to look forward to a brighter future. Kim Poulsen has got assistance from his home country in Denmark, who are working with the under-21s. He said there's a great bunch of players coming through. That was a good move there by Tanzania. They have put together a few good passing moves like that. But once again, there's no end product, and here is a chance on the break. It's going to be a free kick, no question about that. Kalu it was who was taken down. Salomon Kalou, who left Chelsea at the end of the season, is now going to be playing his football back in France, in Lille. In the new season, French League, so much to look forward to with the likes of Monaco pressing PSG now. So much money being spent in that league at the moment. It will unquestionably be a target for many of the young African players. Kasea lines up his wall. He's got 4 in there at the moment. Gervinho joins it as well. Y.Touré standing over the ball. It is going to be Touré. It's a nice one. It's a beauty. Y.Touré has given his side a 2-1 lead here. Beautiful free kick. Well, disappointment on the face of the keeper Kasea, because it was always likely that that is what Touré was going to try. But it's one thing knowing what he's going to do, it's another to stop it. And Africa's probably best footballer has given Ivory Coast the lead, and possibly the keeper could have done better there. There was a good curl on it, but the wall didn't really do its job. You can see why Kasea is so unhappy. So from going a goal down in the first 2 minutes, suddenly Ivory Coast are in control. 2-1 up now. A thrilling match we've had here as we approach the half-an-hour mark. Now we'll see really what Tanzania are made of. Don't forget, they have to win today. Anything other than a win means there's going to be no chance of reaching the final qualifier and no World Cup in Brazil in 2014. It's a good, strong challenge. Going to be a free kick for the Ivory Coast. Seredia. He's had a good game so far. Touré starting to get more and more involved. I was saying after the first 10 minutes we really hadn't seen much of him, but he's come into his own. He won the free kick, and really what will annoy Paulson and Tanzania is that it all came around through the Tanzania attack. They weren't able to do anything with it. Ivory Coast hit them on the break. Touré was taken down just outside the area, and well, you know the rest. That is why Manchester City were prepared to pay so much money for him. Such a key player, not just for his country but for his club as well. Did seem to be times in the Premier League last season where he almost felt that he was carrying the rest of the team. Disappointment on the faces of the home players and fans so far after such a promising beginning, but there's still plenty of time to go yet. It's a good challenge, and again this is where Ivory Coast can be so dangerous. Traoré, who broke things up, they've got the speed and the power on the break to really hurt the hosts. You've seen the Traoré, scorer of the goal. Bit of space on the right hand side. If he can reach it, he can. Decent cross too, but that time the Tanzanians did their job at the back. They've given it away again though. Sloppy play, and it's going to be a corner to the Ivory Coast. They really can't afford to be doing that too much. You see Lamouchi must be delighted after a poor start. Born in Tunisia, Sabri Lamouchi. He struggled to convince many people inside the country that he is the right choice for the job. His first management job. But so far things have gone pretty well. It's been such a shock to most just how badly Ivory Coast have done in the African Cup of Nations recently. It's been very disappointing, feeling perhaps that the World Cup is more important to them. Or even with so many of them playing at some of the biggest clubs in the world now, that international football, apart from the absolute highest stage, is enough to motivate them properly. They were panned by the critics for their poor display in the Cup of Nations. So can they find a way back into things? Bony once again with the throw. That time nothing doing. Tanzania have got to do better when they've got possession of the ball. It's clear that's where things aren't working out for them. And with the likes of Traoré and Y.Touré so quick to break out. Of course, Ivory Coast have got such power, not just in the first 11, on the bench as well. Côte, who still is registered to Wigan, but you get the feeling he's not going to be there very much longer. Just offside. But again, they found a way through quite easily there, and that will worry the Tanzanians. Y.Touré's influence growing almost by the minute on this game. Seems to be everywhere, and you can see he was actually not offside. And they're going to have to work very hard on holding that line properly, the Tanzanians, else they will be punished, just as they were when the first goal went in from L.Traoré. There's Traoré. Ismail. They've certainly found their rhythm now, the Ivorians. What have the Taifa Stars got by way of reply? It would be nice for Ivory Coast to do the job today. There's a chance maybe though for the hosts. Wants it on his left foot, can't do so. It's a long way out. Not a bad effort though. That's more promising. Mombana that. Didn't really worry Barry at all in the Ivory Coast goal. But that's much more promising than Mombana. They're not prepared to give up the ghost. Two disappointing goals defensively, really. With things very much in their favour, they can afford to slow the pace right down, the elephants of the Ivory Coast. It's a good header looking for Traoré, just fails to reach him. Again, there's some decent touches in the middle of the park. Seredia involved in a scuffle there. Referee says just get on with it, which is exactly what Tanzania do. So was that a free kick, or they're not happy, the Ivorians? And you can understand why. It did look like just clipped the ball there, Sakura. But the referee does give a free kick, and this is a real chance for Tanzania. Let's have another look. Did seem that Sakura played the ball before Ulimwengu went tumbling. Now, who's the free kick specialist? Can they do to Ivory Coast what Y.Touré did to them earlier on? Barry lining up the wall. Ulimwengu's going to be interested in this from that kind of range. Incessant noise. It was a shot, easy save in the end though for Barry. Disappointing, cleared the wall easily enough, but that was never going to beat Barry from there. He only knows full well. Disappointing really, because that was a chance for his side. Well, managers are going to have differing opinions and differing ideas over how to approach the second half. Tanzania have got to show more fighting spirit. They've got to get more players forward. And you imagine that that's going to leave gaps at the back. In the meantime, here they come again though. It's a good run on the left-hand side, decent cross in too, and it's there's an equaliser. And you can see what it means to Poulsen. What a great goal too. The crowd go wild because Tanzania have scored for the second time here and levelled things at a perfect time with half-time approaching. Ulimwengu, I think it was, who got the final touch. It was a really good run on the left-hand side. And a marvellous goal, capping what's been a breathtaking first half here in Dar es Salaam. You can see what it means to the mass ranks of Tanzania fans. Poulsen absolutely delighted with Ulimwengu there. Let's take another look. It's a really good run, just got a touch, which actually worked out nicely for the Tanzanians. It still wasn't the easiest of chances though, and all credit to Ulimwengu for holding his nerve. It was a great cross in by Kakapombe. And the final touch did indeed come from Ulimwengu. And we're back all square once again. Tanzania 2, Ivory Coast 2 now. So how does that change the manager's half-time team talk we were talking about just a second ago? Ivory Coast had really slowed the game right down to the pace they wanted. Just about 5 minutes left on the clock till half-time. 4 goals in an incredible first half here in Dar es Salaam. And you do get the feeling there's going to be more in this game. Neither defence looking totally solid. I have to say I'm a bit surprised at how rickety the Ivory Coast have been at the back. Such experience in that back line, the likes of Zakura. Of course, no Y.Touré. He's one of the victims of the age policy at the moment. He's not getting a look in. Well, this man's goal has really opened things up once again. It's a lovely turn. Can't take on the next man, Kalu. Gives it away. Good strong tackle by Nioni. Some real fierce but fair challenges coming in. Although Bulka's not happy about that last one. They don't care about it at the moment. It's another good break on this right-hand side if he can pull it back. No, just ran out of play. Again, promising move on the right-hand side. Smile on the face of Mr. Sharef there. Just a few minutes to go until half-time. Tanzania 2, Ivory Coast 2. It's a lovely first-time touch. What's Gervinho got here? Haven't seen much of him recently. Again, it's all a bit crowded in the box. And well saved in the end by Kaseya. Touch slightly too heavy by Kalu. Disappointing end to what looked like a really promising break there by the Ivory Coast. Somebody's injured. It is the keeper. It's not a surprise. I think Kalu probably just clipped him as Kaseya came out to claim the ball. Well, what must be going through the mind of Kim Poulsen and his team right now? They had the dream start taking the lead in the first minute through Kiemba. Then, to his horror, letting in 2 goals. First one by Traoré and then Y.Touré. And now suddenly we're back all square once again, thanks to Ulimwengu. Well, there was much made in the run-up to this game, just how strong Tanzania are at home. Fans renowned for getting behind their side, and they've done a fantastic job today. The noise has been incessant from the very first minute, and they've certainly had plenty to cheer about here. Kasea looks to be okay. And the Ivory Coast players eventually roll it back to the injured keeper. All in all, you have to say it's probably seen as a good first half for Tanzania. There'll be frustration, especially with the second goal, the gift of a free kick, and probably Kasea should have done better to keep out Y.Touré's effort. But apart from that, they've looked strong down both wings. Bony particular on this right-hand side. It's found space time and time again. Here they come again though, Tanzania. Going for the spectacular. Was that handball? It is, I think. It is indeed a handball, and the first yellow card of the game. It's not been the greatest of games so far for Sol Bamba. You can see the look on his face. It was Kazimoto who had the shot. And clear handball, and this is a great opportunity for Tanzania to take what would be a remarkable lead at the end of this first half. Barry sorting out the back line. Looks like he wants 6 in the wall. They haven't done much with their free kick so far. They only had one earlier on. And you can see there, Ulimwengu asking more from the fans. Get behind their team. It was a very tame effort that Nyoni put in the last time they had a chance. This is slightly closer, and it really is in a great position. Y.Touré, almost exactly the same spot, in fact, that Y.Touré scored earlier on. What can Tanzania do? He drives it, it's a good save, and it just didn't come out to a Tanzania player. It was a good free kick, and Barry did well to make the save, and at the other end Gervinho is on the break for Ivory Coast, but he falls down in the box. He wants a penalty, he's not going to get it. Some confusion there at the moment. Was there a push there by Nyoni? It looked like there was. Let's have a look at the free kick at the other end. Barry did well, and you can see 3 Tanzania players waiting for the rebound. Didn't find any of them. All it needed was a touch, but it fell instead to the Ivory Coast defence, and indeed the referee has given a penalty here. Well, he pointed quickly. It was hard to see if he was pointing to the spot or to a free kick. He has awarded a penalty to the Ivory Coast. Y.Touré has got his ball on their hands. Gervinho, it was a great break by Gervinho, and it looks like the first half is going to end in just as dramatic fashion as it started. The Ivory Coast now a golden opportunity to take a 3-2 lead going into the break of what has been an amazing first half here in Dar es Salaam. Touré steps up, normally goes to the right, and the keeper almost saved it too. Straight down the middle. A wry smile on the face of Y.Touré, his second goal of the game. Frustration for Kasea. Let's see how close he was. He got his leg to it, but just couldn't put enough on it. Into the roof of the net. Ivory Coast take a 3-2 lead now. Sheer frustration. And once again, question marks will be asked of the back line, because this once, just like the last goal, stemmed from an attack at the other end. It was the free kick for Tanzania. A great opportunity. They could have taken the lead themselves. Gervinho picks up the ball, runs half of the length of the pitch. Nioni it was who brought him down, or pushed him over. Didn't look like the referee had given it at first. He was surrounded by defenders from Tanzania. And there's a good run on the overlap there. You can see what he was trying to do. So Ivory Coast now 3-2 up, 5 goals in an amazing first half. That's well in its closing stages now. If you've just joined us, you've really missed a cracker. And really, with a first half like that, as you can see, 2 minutes of time to be added on now. First half of 5 goals. You wouldn't bet against there being even more in the second half. Ivory Coast once again have got their noses in front. Well, Tanzania have fought their way back into it once. But really disappointing for them to give away 2 unnecessary dead balls. First time, a free kick that Y.Touré converted. And the second time, a penalty that, yes, Y.Touré converted. Seredia. L.Traoré. And once again, Ivory Coast in control, knowing that they can slow the game, the pace of the game down to their own level. They've got their noses in front. It's a nice ball, looking for Traoré. Didn't quite come off. You could see what he was trying to do. Tanzania, when they do break, they are quick. Here's Gervinho. He's caused a lot of problems down this left-hand side. That time he was beaten, though, by Nioni. It was the crucial time that he wasn't, that won the penalty for his side. It is the goal that separates the two clubs, the two countries at the moment. As we play out the dying seconds of an amazing first half here at the National Stadium in Dar es Salaam. In the very first minute, the host Tanzania took the lead through Kiemba. Then back came Ivory Coast. First L.Traoré equalised, and then it turned into the Y.Touré show, scoring a wonderful free kick to give his side the lead, before once again that man Ulimwengu brought things level at 2-2, and then right at the death in the first half, a wonderful run by Gervinho won his team a penalty, which was converted by Y.Touré to give us a half-time score here at the National Stadium in Dar es Salaam of Tanzania 2, Ivory Coast 3. And we'll see you for the second half. And so welcome back to the National Stadium here in Dar es Salaam for the second half of the World Cup qualifier between Tanzania and the Ivory Coast. We've had, of course, a dramatic first half with 5 goals. And really, it's still anybody's game, even though the visitors, strong favourites, the Ivory Coast, are in the lead 3-2 at the moment. There's enough signs from the home fans and players on the pitch that things are not hopeless yet. But the stark reality for Tanzania is that they have to win today. Not even a draw would be enough. And even if they do win, to be honest, they will be reliant on winning their last game too, and then hoping the results elsewhere go their way. So right now, the World Cup dream for Tanzania is looking quite a long way off. But stranger things have, of course, happened in football. And although the big money will be backing the Elephants of the Ivory Coast, all is certainly not lost yet for Tanzania. The Algerian referee, Mr. Sheref, coming out same time as the home players. Gervinho of Arsenal, Y.Touré of Manchester City, they've been the main tormentors. And you did get a glimpse also of the scorer of the first goal, Traoré too there. Y.Touré with 2 goals in this first half. One, a wonderful curl free kick. The second, a penalty that he did, to be honest, get slightly lucky with. Right down the middle. The Tanzanian keeper, Kaseya, did get his foot to it, but could only push it high into the net. And unfortunately for Tanzania, well, that's the goal that separates the two sides, and that's the goal that pushes them a major step away from the World Cup qualification at this stage. Ivory Coast know that not just winning the group is enough in this rather complex procedure that they have to qualify for the World Cup. They have to win their group, and then of course they each play a 2-legged playoff with winner take all going into the World Cup finals in Brazil next year. So we're underway in this second half with Ivory Coast the visitors 3-2 up to the good and shooting from left to right. It was amazing to see the growing influence of Y.Touré, such a powerhouse in not just in his country's football, but when he's playing at Manchester City in the Premier League. There were question marks over whether he would stay at City later on last season, with things not really working out as well as they had done the previous year. Of course, he's now got a new boss at City in the shape of Manuel Pellegrini, who is set to sign on the dotted line. This was a source of a lot of action in the first half. These throw-ins from the right-hand side by Nyoni. That's another good one. And again, Ivory Coast don't clear their lines properly. That's what cost them so dearly in the first minute of the first half, when Tanzania took an incredible lead through Kiemba. It was just that kind of throw-in. Ulimwengu, scorer of the second goal there, who was fouled in the box. Pensive look on the face of Kim Poulsen, the Danish coach. He's travelled around a lot as Poulsen. He's coached 2 or 3 teams in Denmark before starting to find jobs abroad. Worked a long time in Singapore, and before taking over the national side here in Tanzania, he was looking after the youngsters. So he's got a good idea of the strength and depth, the teams, the players behind this first team. And he really is convinced that in the next few years we're going to see a lot more from Tanzania. A team largely based at home, many of them playing on their own ground actually today. The national stadium is home to Simba. National Stadium was built in 2007. Capacity of some 60,000. We haven't had the official figures as yet, but it is a big crowd here today, and so far they have been treated to a highly memorable match of football. Whether we're going to get the same kind of high octane action in the second half that we did in the first remains to be seen. Ivory Coast will be more than happy to keep things the way they are. They know that a win today means they are definitely through to the final playoffs. There were a host of games in Africa yesterday, but this Group C looking like it's going the way of Ivory Coast, as it really has done most of the way through. Such a strong outfit. They had a friendly on Friday night against Ghana, in which they drew 1 each. Kalu going down, but looks like he's okay. Corner then for Tanzania, whipped into the near post. Just evaded his teammates though. And there's Touré. Again looking for the powerful break. If he can reach it, there's a chance on here. This is a great chance. There's a man in the middle. And he's pulled it back instead. And it's off the crossbar. Great effort. Lovely break there by the Ivory Coast. Gervinho causing all sorts of damage, and they've won a corner. It did look like he'd made the wrong option when he pulled it back. Let's take another look. It was a good ball in the end, and Kasea was beaten all ends up really. Lovely shot by Kalu, crashing back off the bar, and that really would have been curtains, you feel, for Tanzania had that one gone in. As it is, they get a lead off, but it's a corner. A wry smile on the face of Kalu. Good corner too, but this time Tanzania will clear their lines. Only at the expense of another corner kick though. Early pressure in the second half from the Ivory Coast. And Tanzania slightly hanging on at the moment. De Mayo that time couldn't stop the corner. They've got so many big, tall, powerful men in the middle. That's one of them, Y.Touré. I beg your pardon. It was a figure of Sol Bamba who won the header in the end. But it's been a positive start by the visitors this second half. Here's Seredia. And that's a foul. L.Traoré. Gone down, it is, who's gone down. Up on his feet now, no question it was a foul though. Free kick to Tanzania. So we haven't exactly had the explosive start to the second half as we did in the first, which is to be expected really. And that's another unnecessary dead ball given away by Tanzania. Leone again, he was the one who was responsible for giving away the penalty in the first half when he took down or pushed down Gervinho. There is indeed Gervinho on the ball with the corner. Well caught though, nicely done by Correa there. And a chance possibly for a break by Tanzania. Kipombe has been industrious on this left-hand side. There's a lot of experience as well as youth in this Tanzanian lineup. That is the question that's going to be asked really of not just Ivory Coast, but there's other ageing teams from Africa There's been a lot of criticism of Cameroon, for example. That's a lovely run. It's a decent cross too. L.Traoré it is who clears his lines for his team. Only to give the ball away once again. This is a promising start to the second half by Tanzania. They've settled well after being ruffled earlier on. Space again for Nyoni on the right. Decent ball in. He's got a chance for a shot. Good cross in, and that was a very poor header. It was a great run by Nyoni. And a good cross too, and they could have done much better with that. Really disappointing. It was a great move by Tanzania here. So much space. Opted to go high, Nyoni, when possibly he should have played it along the floor. And you can see how frustrating that is for Paulson, because that was a really good opportunity. Maybe overhit the cross a touch there. So good flowing run, brought to an end finally. You do wonder just how Ivory Coast can replace the likes of Y.Touré. The fact that Didier Drogba's not in the starting lineup at the moment just shows how much strength and depth there is up front. That's a poor pass, and again Tanzania agents of their own misfortune, but a good save. Kasea saving his team there. Unnecessary, sloppy defending, and it was a great chance. It's individual errors that are costing them so badly at the moment, the Tanzanians. So Bamba organising the back line along with Barry. Once again, it's a long throw from Nyoni. That time they do deal with it better. Tanzania, of course, do have the worry that they can't afford to push too many men forward, because as we saw in the first half, Ivory Coast are more than capable of hitting them on the break. It's a decent header and a good save by Barry. This is promising stuff from Tanzania. That time it was Mbwana. Let's take another look. Good cross in, got a decent header. Wasn't really the toughest of saves for Barry. Perhaps just in front of him. And again, Ivory Coast doing much better to clear their lines from a corner and giving themselves a chance on the break. Touré losing out this time though. Do have strength and depth and so much experience. You look at the likes of Didier Zakura. He's been capped now, capped for the 113th time today. Y.Touré, he's winning his 78th cap. So this team's been a long time together. Barry in goal, he's on 74 now. It's a good run, and it's brought down badly. I think we're going to get a free kick, a booking here. Gervinho's looked very lively today, but he's such a frustrating kind of player. You know that he's got it. You can see him producing marvellous skill time and time again. Great pace there. And this is what frustrates Arsenal fans so much. It's the end product that too often is lacking from Gervinho. And it isn't a huge surprise to see Arsenal linked with new strikers this summer. And if somebody does come in from elsewhere, then you do fancy that Gervinho will be on his way from the North London club. Free kick to Ivory Coast, just dealt with it there, Kasea. We've got 3 men up for this attack. The Elephants can clear their lines and launch a breakaway of their own. Kalu. He's had a good game as well today, Salomon Kalou. Loses out this time though. Some pretty hefty challenges coming in at the moment, but Tanzania do have a break on here. And he's got the legs. Can he find a cross? It's a great chance, and just past his last man. Really good attack there by the Tanzanians. It was a wonderful break. Paulson on the bench, quite rightly praising his players. It was a really good breakaway. Kiemba, scorer of the first goal. Desperate to score again, but they can't keep missing these chances when they arrive. Once again, Kalou finds plenty of space down on this right hand side. Quite happy to pass it around themselves in midfield. But there have been plenty of chances at both ends in this opening stages of the second half. We're nearly 15 minutes into the second half now. Tanzania have got a score not once but twice. Let's have another look at this break. It was a really good run, just a touch too far. You can see how close it was. But Kiemba just couldn't put the finishing touches to it. Here come Tanzania once again though. Real enthusiasm as they break away. Real hope that they can find something extra. They have rocked the Ivory Coast defence quite often in this match, which is going to be a concern whatever happens really here today. Sabri Lamouchi will be worried about how his defence has been picked apart at times today from one of the weaker sides in the group. There's a lot of talk about whether it's the most fair way of doing things to qualify from the African nations for the World Cup. The theory being that you can play really, really well and win all of your group games, but then it just takes 1.5 off days in the playoffs and all that good work is undone. Of course, it's very different the way it's set up elsewhere in the world, but in the meantime it's a good break by the Ivory Coast. They're finding a lot of joy on that left-hand side. Gervinho particularly has been in great form today. It's good strong defending that time by Sol Bamba. Wins a free kick anyway. Slack pass there though, and away come Tanzania once more. Get the feeling that if they are going to break through, it is going to come down that right hand side. Looks pretty much like Kim Paulson has told his players, this is an area of the pitch you can hurt the Ivorians. High and wide that time though. Kazimoto, who had that shot, has had a good game today. He's been very industrious, involved in everything in the middle of the park really. It's going to be a free kick for the hosts. And where they come once again, it is that right hand side that they love to attack. Switching wings however this time. There's an overlapping run. Space for a shot. Just couldn't get it out of his feet. But they hold on to possession, Tanzania. It's a decent effort too. Not far off. Again, as we said, it is that man Kazimoto he looks like he's in a mood. It's a long way out, but he wasn't afraid to shoot. And certainly Barry was scurrying along the line there. Just whipped away at the last second. But a good effort, and the warning signs are there for Ivory Coast that this game is a long way from one yet. So much of the play on both sides is being done over on that far side. Strong challenge. I think it's gone the way of Tanzania. It has indeed. Boca, such a sturdy player in the middle of the back line, really. 30 years old now, playing for his country for the 75th time tonight. It's another one that is reaching that age where you start questioning how long you can stay at the top, especially with the country and the playing resources of the Ivory Coast. It's a free kick. Soridia gives it away. Free kick then to Tanzania, and we've got first substitution of the day. It's Giovanni Seal who's coming on to replace Salomon Kalou. Seal plays for Sochaux in France, playing for just a second time today for his country. Striker. Still yet to score for the Ivory Coast. It would be a wonderful time to break that duck today. So like for like, really. One striker for another. Because there are other options up front for the Ivory Coast. I talked earlier on about Aruna Kone. There's also Wilfred Bony, who is supposedly strongly linked with West Ham United in the Premier League, amongst number of top international clubs. He could be the next big African player to break through over in England. In the meantime, though, it's a corner for Tanzania on that right hand side. Plenty of jostling in the box. Barry not happy. Just see the size of Sol Bamba there. Header going well wide. Kapombe it was that time who reached it. It was never going to worry Barry from there. As we approach the halfway point in the second half. The only real surprise is that we haven't seen any goals after the 5 that we got in the first. It's a Tanzanian side that are very good in front of their own crowd. They've won the last 3 games really at home. In the meantime, it's a good chance now. Lovely break, and he's put it wide. Well, it did seem that Traoré had done all the hard work there. Looks like he's won a corner. Let's take another look. He left the player for dead, the defender. He must have just clipped the defender on the way through. Let's have another look. Well, hard to say, but it is a corner for the Ivory Coast. Traoré plays it back, and a real waste there. And it would be ironic if something were to happen here, because really that was the shape of two of the goals that Ivory Coast did score in the first half, in case you've joined us late. Both stemming from attacks by Tanzania. Ivory Coast breaking away and putting the ball in at the other end, or winning free kicks. And Y.Touré on both occasions making no mistake from the dead ball situation. It's his second goal and the Ivory Coast third. That separates the two teams at the moment, halfway through the second half. If things stay the same, maybe we remind you, it means that the Ivory Coast will end up at the top of the group regardless what else happens. They will go through to the playoffs, and Tanzania will be finished with their chances of qualification. And it's the Ivory Coast looking the more likely at the moment, although not a very spectacular effort on a bicycle kick. Easy for Kasea. Nicely done in the middle of the park there. And again, it does go down to this right hand side. They're starting to bring more men into the game now moving forward. You can see 6-7 players now. Tanzania know that they've got to score. Sooner the better, really, if they are going to keep their hopes alive. Those hopes dwindling by the minute, to be honest. But it has been a game full of surprises so far, and can the Tanzanians bring joy to their mass ranks of fans and give us a grandstand finish here in Dar es Salaam? It's a free kick in a very dangerous position. L.Traoré not at all happy with the decision, but it's gone the way of Tanzania, and this is a golden chance. They haven't done much with the free kicks they've had so far. It was a clear foul, and this is a real opportunity. Y.Touré not happy with something. Tanzanians claiming he's wasting time. As Barry in the Ivory Coast goal lines up his team. This could be a pivotal point in the match, you feel, because should Tanzania somehow find a way back in, they've got 20 minutes to get that elusive winning goal. The wall looks ready. Barry looks apprehensive. He's got 2, 4, 5 in there at the moment. Referee Sharef pushing them back. Can Tanzania find a way through and find a way back into this game? From a neutral point of view, it would be exactly what the game needs. They're not going to get many better chances than this. And it was a good save by Barry. It was struck rather at him though by Mbwana. It was where the keeper wanted it, or was expecting it, as opposed to Y.Touré in the first half, who curled it into the other corner. Still, Tanzania have the pressure on. They've got plenty of men in the box. But that's not going to worry anybody. Real waste there. Abubakar. Well, Y.Touré knows that this will probably be his last chance to play at a World Cup. With age catching up on him now. He's 30 years old. Reported to be the highest paid player in the Premier League. There was, as I said, talk of him leaving Manchester City towards the end of last season. Nothing ever really came of it though. Tanzania have got to try and get the ball forward quicker. Seems that every time they start moving forward they meet a wall of orange shirts. Had their chances in the second half. Solomon Kalou, if you remember, hit the crossbar. It's nicely done. One man too many, as has happened quite often in this game. And is that another free kick? It is. And a booking as well, I think. It's going to be Traoré who goes into the book. It's Traoré. And it's another free kick in a very dangerous position. Clearly you could see how he wrapped his arm around the neck. Can they do something better? They've been really disappointing with their free kick so far. This is the third free kick that Tanzania have had in this kind of position, and they've not really bothered burying goal whatsoever. Just need somebody, a touch of magic, flash of inspiration. Because time is running out now for Tanzania. A little bit over a quarter of an hour to go. They're not going to get so many good chances now, you feel. One of them they must take if the dream of World Cup qualification is to continue. Again, the referee pulling the wall well back. And an altercation there between Traoré, the striker, and the keeper. Barry in goal, desperate to get this right. Did a good job with the last free kick. Got the ball where he wanted it. Similar kind of position. This one's much more central though. And it's over the bar. Just over hit there. And Mbwana it was once again. And another chance goes begging for Tanzania. You can see the disappointment on the face of the midfielder. It was a chance. Caught it well enough, just couldn't keep it down. Frustration on the face of Kim Poulsen. Because time and chances are running out here for Tanzania. Quarter of an hour left on the clock. Still Tanzania 2, Ivory Coast 3. And still that means that the Ivory Coast are on their way to the qualifiers. And Tanzania will, with just one game left to play after this one, their hopes are over. Morocco will also be desperate to see Tanzania score. Keep their slim hopes alive too. Because a draw for Ivory Coast would mean that Morocco could still theoretically just pip them, although it's an unlikely scenario, to be honest. They would need a whole bunch of things to go their way too. It's a substitute seal. They've looked tighter as a unit most of the time at the back of Ivory Coast in his second half. It's just the needless giving away of free kicks. You can see that he did actually just clip the ball there, but there was enough still left on it for the referee to point to a free kick. Can Tanzania try something different? Is there a goal here somewhere for them? Again, it's the power and the strength in the air of the Ivorians. So hard to beat in the air. That's why it was perhaps such an irony that the first goal of the afternoon in just the first minute came as a result of an aerial battle that was won by the Tanzanians. And the Tanzanian players angry about time wasting here, maybe. Clear clash of heads. It's the substitute CEO who's gone down. Chance for some of the players to get a breather. Some water inside them as we enter the final stages of the game. Let's have a look at the goals. This is the first one. You can see a terrible mistake there by Sol Bamba. Just converted by Kiemba. Here's the equaliser. Y.Touré crosses it in, easy for Traoré. Back to the action. It was taken quickly in the end, and we've got another player down on the deck. And he looks in some pain too. The referee wants it dealt with off pitch side. It's Didier Sakura this time who's gone down. Sakura, of course, formerly of Tottenham Hotspur. Didn't really work out for him there. He went with great expectations. Just clipped as he made that header clear. Now playing in Turkey for Trabzonspor. And again, it's that long throw from the right-hand side, Nyoni. It's a good header. A spectacular save by Barry. Does like to over-elaborate sometimes, the keeper. But it was Ulimwengu who got the header in. Let's take another look. Did well to get anything on it. Not quite sure. Barry needed to make it look that special. Really one for the cameras. But he is an athletic keeper. Got to grant him that. Can Tanzania find some kind of breakthrough? They've got a little over 10 minutes plus time added on. Time and fortune running against them, really. But when it all comes out in the wash and they'll look back at this game, they'll realise that they really were architects of their own misfortune so much, needlessly giving away free kick and a penalty. That keeps the two sides apart. Is a chance though. It's a corner. There was an opportunity there. Suddenly, Ulimwengu found himself in space. He's in goal scoring mood. We know that. We've got another substitute here for the Ivory Coast. Seredia, who's coming off. He's going to be replaced by Romaric. Romaric was one of the ones who was hopeful of starting the game today. Seredia in no huge rush to get off the pitch. Romaric, 30 years old as well, another of the ageing stars in this team. Plays in Spain for Real Zaragoza. Corner then to Tanzania. Romaric brought in to add more beef maybe to this bombardment. It's a good header away. Nicely read though, really well done. Can they keep it alive? It's going to be another corner. You can see the mass ranks of cameramen behind the goal. The fans desperate for their team to try and find a way back into this one. Started so promisingly for them. Such an early goal. Now they need two in less than 10 minutes. Time it's low, but again dealt with easily enough by the Ivory Coast back line. Kim Paulson, he wants his players pushing further up. It has reached that time now. It's all or nothing. Remember, not even a draw is enough for Tanzania today. They've got to win this game, and that means scoring 2 goals in their closing stages. And they're not going to do it, frankly, like that. Well done under pressure there. It's going to be another free kick. Again, Traoré getting himself into trouble. He's not happy, complaining about every decision that goes against him, Ismail Traoré. Need to find a way of getting behind the back line. It's been a decent second half display by Tanzania. There are plenty of positives to come from this game and from this qualifying campaign, really. Again, they've made themselves really difficult to beat at home. They need to be more clinical, maybe cut out the individual errors that have cost them so badly today. It's a nasty challenge there, a little bit late. Good call by the referee. Kiemba it is, who's going to take the free kick himself. Still Tanzania 2, Ivory Coast 3. The clock ticking down, and along with it, any of Tanzania's remaining hopes of World Cup qualification. But all's not lost yet. Slightly overhit though, that pass. And it looks like he's picked up some kind of an injury there. Maybe it's just cramp. Kiemba, he's run himself into the ground today. He's looked really strong as Kiemba. So he can get treatment off the pitch, having run off a Simba player. One of the many promising youngsters in this Tanzania lineup, just 21 years old. It's a good ball through the middle. A rare attack really in the second half for Ivory Coast. Free kick goes against Seal. I think maybe for a handball, hard to see from here. We haven't seen yet if Kiemba has come back into the pitch. So we enter the last 5 minutes of this game here in Dar es Salaam. Still Tanzania 2, Ivory Coast 3, and Ivory Coast heading for the playoffs. It's that man Y.Touré who's been the difference between the two sides, certainly in the goals column. Touré scoring an equaliser, scoring the second goal and the third for his country today. Once again underlying just how valuable he is to club and country. Y.Touré can slow things right down now. Simple enough save in the end for Kasea. He's had almost nothing to do in the last 20 minutes or so. But it's been a spirited performance from Tanzania. They got the ideal start, just what they wanted. And even when it looked like things were going against them, when they were 2-1 down, they found an equaliser. Lovely goal too it was from Ulimwengu. But on the day, it is just that extra bit of class that Ivory Coast have got that separates the sides. And you can see only one man really in the box for Tanzania, with 5 Ivory Coast players around him. And it's that lack of self-belief possibly that's holding them back, and it's going to cost them the game here today. Y.Touré, one of his trademark leggy runs, marauding through the middle. And we've got substitutes on both sides coming on now. Double substitution for Tanzania. It's Misha, who is coming on for Kiemba. Misha, another of the youngsters, just 23 years old. Hasn't figured much so far. This is his 5th cap for his country. And in the meantime, I do think that we saw an Ivory Coast substitute lining up as well. I'll give you confirmation of that as soon as we get it. In fact, it's another for Tanzania. Kazimoto who's coming off, and we still await the Ivory Coast substitute. Here we are. Number 12. Well, we did say that we might see Bony coming into this game. Coming on now for the final few minutes in place of L.Traoré. Traoré, who scored the first goal of the game for his country this evening. So off comes Traoré. West Ham fans have been looking long and hard at this boy, Bony. He's had a great season in Holland with Vitesse Arnhem, which has really brought him to the attention of scouts all over the world. As we move into the final minute of normal time, Tanzania, well, the writing is very much on the wall for them now. It looks like it's going to end in disappointment for them, but they can leave with their head held high. And for Ivory Coast, well, they can coast, if you excuse the pun, into the playoffs. Decent balls, too hard though for Gervinho. And we have got 5 minutes of time added on. Maybe there is still time for more drama in a game that certainly hasn't lacked drama. Right from the very first minute, when Tanzania took a shocking lead. Can they throw enough men forward? That's the question. Nyoni can't find his man. Nyoni, who switched from the right wing to the left for this second half. It's a decent turn. He's not going to get past the next man now. Good, strong, powerful defending right at the last. L.Traoré, one of those names in the Ivory Coast team, not one of the celebrated ones. Always seems to do a good, dependable job. It's not a bad effort, but Barry was able to watch it the whole way. Decent strike though, De Mayo that time. It's a long, long way out. Could have caught a deflection though on the way through. Barry though watched it the whole way through. Time really running out now for Tanzania. Interesting to see what will happen at the end of the qualifiers. Kim Paulson's only taken over the job full time since last year. The same in fact goes for Lamouchi, Sabri Lamouchi of the Ivory Coast. He'll be delighted to have steered his country through the first hurdle anyway. It was a slightly controversial choice. They do like their French managers. Here's Gervinho, and it's a chance for another goal, and it is finally all over now. Once again, Gervinho involved. 4-2 to Ivory Coast. Barry is delighted. In the end, it was the simplest of tap-ins. And that man Gervinho can look back on a day with great satisfaction, because Ivory Coast have scored a fourth and final goal, you would imagine. The easiest of touches for Bony. He's only been on the pitch for a couple of minutes. He'll be pleased to score an international goal. That will be his 8th. You can see Barry knows it's all over now. The game's up for Tanzania. Ivory Coast are heading to the playoffs and one step closer to Brazil 2014. Just 1 minute left now of time added on. The dream has certainly died for Tanzania. And not easy for the neutrals to gauge how strong really this Ivory Coast team is. Will be interesting to see who they get in the playoffs. They will start as favourites, whoever it is. Ranked in the top 10 at stages, this team. So hard really to make sense of the FIFA World Rankings. Rankings that put the Brazilians down among the 1920s. Teams the likes of England in the top 5 at times. It just seems slightly a lottery. But there is no question that this side from the Ivory Coast is probably the best in Africa. That is the final whistle blown by Mr. Abid Sharaf. And Ivory Coast have won it in the end quite comfortably. Just a final goal by Wilfried Bony in the second half. Really, the damage was done in the first half. An incredible 5-goal haul started in the very first minute by Tanzania. Ivory Coast hit back. The goals from Traoré and 2 in the end for Y.Touré, which put them in control 3-2 at half time. Second half, well, very much even affair once again. Disappointment on the face of the Tanzanians. They know now there's no chance for them to go to Brazil next year. For Ivory Coast, well, they've got 1 game left, but that game will be almost irrelevant. They know they're in the playoffs. The final score here from the National Stadium in Dar es Salaam is Tanzania 2, Ivory Coast 4. Thanks for watching.